Hello there, and welcome to the Legacy Estates. This is Keenan Cain speaking, Executive Chef for the Dining Services. Today we're going to be talking about our Lobster Bisque to go. So if you receive one of these packages or one of these boxes, you'll be a little bit more familiar with what's going on. So today I'm going to go over it briefly, whatever you will, when you get your box, what will be inside of it. So we have over here, you will also have a recipe, and then there'll also be a little set of instructions that would go along with this. So when you get your package, your box, we're going to have it labeled for you, and you will know exactly what to do. So first of all, what we're going to do is you can go through your product, your ingredient list, just like you were putting together an office desk at home. But you're going to have the butter. You're going to have the mirepoix, which is the carrot, onion, and celery, but I've already ground it up for you, so it's going to be real easy for you to assemble. Moving on down, you will have flour, which will be part of the roux, which will help thicken it. 1 part flour, 1 part butter makes a roux, and that's going to help thicken this up for us and give it some real nice, smooth, silky body to our lobster bisque. Then we're going to have clam stock, which I have right here. We're going to use about a quart of that, and you will have that in there too. It will come in a container similar to this. There you go. Then we're going to move on down. You're also going to have the wine and sherry. Should come into a container similar to this. It's part white wine and part sherry. You can use that at your discretion if it's a little too strong or robust for you, but this will give it a nice piquant flavor. This is based also too on a basic traditional recipe out of New England. Sometimes I'll just use sherry, sometimes I don't, but I normally use sherry. I don't always use the white wine. You can use what you have on hand, but that'll give it a nice, robust flavor too. We also will have the lobster will be like this. We've pureed it for you. It'll come in this container like that. It'll be ready to go. Then you'll have your Worcestershire sauce, which gives it a nice piquant flavor too. Then you're going to have some heavy cream in there. And you're going to have some of our tomato paste. Okay, so we'll get going on this, and I'll take you step by step. So when you receive your kit, you're going to get a little pat of butter, a couple ounces of butter. It may or it may not have a little wrapper on it from the container that I got it out of. We're going to go ahead and slap that in to a stainless steel pan. Now, in our instructions, I went over the stainless steel. This is an aluminum pan, which most of us have an aluminum pan. This is stainless steel. Now, the reason I want you to know that is because our whips that we use here at work and what I use at home are stainless steel. So these two are compatible. If I use this stainless steel whip on an aluminum pot, it's going to actually peel some of that aluminum off. It will turn into microscopic dust, and it may turn your soup or product, your white sauce, if you're making that, kind of gray. So if you do use an aluminum one, then use a softer whip like a nylon whip or a spoon or something that won't scrape off that. So I'm using this one here, though, stainless steel. That's what we use. That's what I use at home. So I'm going to go ahead and slap that butter pat in there. I'm going to turn this on because it's a little bit hot. You're going to be a little pat of butter in there. You're going to just kind of gently stir it like I am. See, I'm gently doing that? Yep, you can do it too. Really don't want your butter to scorch or turn brown. Just get it melted nice and soft. Then when you get to it starts to melt up on it, don't want it too hot. I'm going to go ahead and take our mirepoix out. That's our carrot, onion, and celery. This is already looking good. It's starting to sizzle, and it looks wonderful. If it gets a little hot, turn it down a little bit. What I'm going to do is just gently stir up that mirepoix. I want it to soften up for a little bit. It should kind of sizzle a little bit on you. We want to soften that up a little bit because that will kind of help disintegrate when we make our lobster bisque. We're going to simmer this up in a little bit too. Now while that's doing that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add in Doesn't have to be in the exact instructions, but I'm going to go ahead and add my flour. And again, that's going to work with the butter we put in there and make a roux, and that's going to thicken it up, give it a real nice body. This should kind of look like wet sand as you get going traditionally. That's what we aim for. And I'm going to cook out some of that moisture, a little bit of that moisture in there. And it's already smelling very aromatic. You can smell the carrot, the onion, and celery. And it's already starting to do its thing. It's looking good. If I had a spoon, I'd eat some of that right now. That's how good it looks. Not really, just kidding. Next, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add my tomato paste. Would you stay back, please? This is going to give it a nice rich flavor too, and it's going to give it a real nice red color. Very vibrant, very pretty. This will also act as a thickening agent. This tomato paste will thicken up a little bit for us. I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. That flour is going to cook up, get some of that raw, starchy flavor out of there. Kind of get inside the corners here a little bit. Just kind of want this to cook gently. I don't want it to really scorch on us or get too particularly brown in the bottom. I want it to just gently cook. Okay, now we got that. And if you look on your instructions here, it'll kind of walk us through there. So we've added the tomato paste, we've added the roux, and we've added our mirepoix. So now I'm going to go ahead. It's starting to cook up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add our wine and sherry mix and kind of deglaze that a little bit. And this will give it a real nice, unique flavor as well. So right now we've added our flour, our butter, mirepoix, tomato paste, the wine. You get a very nice scent coming up for you, starting to evaporate a little bit. Looking very wonderful. Just lightly, sort of lightly bubbling inside here. We're almost halfway through this right now. It's starting to bubble a little bit more than I want it to, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. It smells delicious. Now I'm going to go ahead and add our lobster. I've ground this all up for you, and it's ready to go. This is about a pound, maybe 18 ounces. Now, you can also use, as I said earlier, you could use shrimp, you could use crab, lobster works well. And I included some of the au jus from the lobster. Okay, now I'm going to mix that in there. And this is a great time of the year for soups and fresh bread because it's starting to get cold outside. And you can have the oven on and it feels good when you walk by, the oven's on and there's something cooking in there. You could do a stew, you could do a roast, roasted carrots, lamb, pork. It just goes on and on. Okay, now I've got that cooking up pretty well. Can't quite see my fire there. I'm going to go ahead and measure out our clam juice, which will be measured for you. And I'm using approximately a quart. And when you get this, you will want to make sure that you incorporate any settlement on the bottom. If there's a little bit of settlement, please incorporate that. Now I'm just going to gently add this clam broth to our mixture as if you're making a gravy because you don't want it to cook up real quick. I don't want to get any dumplings in there, pieces that we'll have to kind of break down later. So just give it a few minutes to absorb and add a little bit more. And then once you get it going, you can add a little bit more faster to it. This looks really good so far. And if you want to make your own stock with, say, shrimp shells or crab shells, or save the lobster tails and that au jus, that will certainly work well too. Just remember, if you put salt in there, it's going to add a little more salt to your overall flavor. This clam juice seems to work really well. Now I went ahead and I added all that lobster to the pot. I could have saved a little bit and put a dollop on top, but you don't have to. Some people do, some don't. Sometimes it'll sink if it's not a real thick bisque. But this is looking pretty good right now, so I've got all those flavors in there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, I'll use in a second. I'm going to add the fresh thyme sprigs, which look like this. There'll be 3 or 4 bay leaves in there and some fresh thyme sprigs. I'm going to leave them in there whole because we can remove them here in a little bit. They look. Everybody knows what fresh thyme looks like. So, if you wanted to, you could peel these off of there. You can peel the little leaves off. You could put those in there. Thyme can be kind of a strong herb, so you just kind of want a nice essence in there. I'm adding a couple, 3 or 4 bay leaves. I don't think 1 bay leaf will do much, so I usually put in 2 or 3 because I have some usually. It's not going to bother me. Because I'm going to pull them out in a little bit here. Now we're going to let this kind of come up. I'm going to let it simmer a little bit, come to a light simmer. At this point, you can go ahead. I like to add the Worcestershire right in at about this time. I like the Worcestershire. It's a fun ingredient to work with. It's kind of overlooked, I think, sometimes, and so I've been kind of researching it and getting into it, and I like to use it a lot, and I think it's a favorite here. So you can use, you might try about half at first. I like to have it so you can just taste it, because sometimes they'll call for a small amount. And sometimes I can tell just by smelling it how it will taste, because I'm used to it and I've done it a lot. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape. I think we've added everything there is to add except for the cream. I'm going to add the cream here in just a few minutes. I would like to do is bring this up to a light simmer, don't want to boil, just a light simmer. It'll just so it begins to steam. Maybe a bubble pops here and there. I don't really want it to boil. I want it to be kind of nice and soft, because this also has to cook up those carrots and onion and celery, but they're finely chopped, so they're going to cook up really quick. And as you go along, they're going to melt down a little bit, and they'll blend in real well. This is also common to make this similar to what we did, but there's also a machine called an immersion blender. And it's like a blender that you use to make malts and smoothies at home. But it's something like this, and it has a blade on the end. And you can just put that immersion blender in there and turn it on, and it will puree everything for you. I had one years ago for things like this, but I just went ahead and I found it just as easy to go ahead and process my product before I get started, because now it's all basically done. Less to clean up, less dishes to do. But if you're a gadget person, it's kind of fun because it's another gadget you got to have in your kitchen, and they're kind of fun to experiment with. So it's just now beginning to simmer, I can smell these aromas coming together. But I want to let it simmer for a little bit. So we're going to just let this come to a light, real light simmer boil. Okay, well, now we've let it simmer here for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it's getting some nice body to it. It's thickening up very, very well. We're going to go ahead and add our cream to it now. And it'll come in like a 1 cup container like this, about like this. This is actually a 2 cup, but it'll come in like a deli container. Just go ahead and pour that in there. It's going to give it a real nice smooth, rich, creamy texture. Then just go through it to make sure that you have all of them removed. Yeah, there's another one there. Got two of them. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add a little bit of paprika. And it's going to, again, it's going to give it a little bit of a nice red color, nice golden red, beautiful color and aroma come out of there. I do use at home, I do like to use smoked paprika, but you don't have to. Some people like it, some don't, but I like the smoked paprika. I think it gives it a little extra warm flavor. And you'll just want to add about a teaspoon. That's about a teaspoon to me. Don't need to add a lot. And just lightly stir that up. This looks delicious. It's coming together very, very well. Now, when we serve this, if you like, you can also serve it with a slice of French bread or a baguette, a crusty baguette, or if you like sourdough bread, it's very good to dip in. I'm an oyster cracker person. I love oyster crackers. I like to eat the oyster crackers, and especially with this. Actually, I'd rather eat the oyster crackers than have this on top of my crackers because I like the crackers that well. And once you've done about 15, 20, 25 minutes, it doesn't take a lot of time because everything in here cooks very, very quickly. It doesn't take long. You just bring it up to a light simmer, a very, very low boil. Take it on back down. It's just simmering where you can see the steam coming off of there. You've got a nice, robust flavors. Make sure all your ingredients are mixed in well. We've taken out our sprigs of fresh thyme. Going to have a nice essence of that. You could leave this and let it simmer for a while. It's certainly not going to hurt it. You just don't want it to boil or kind of scorch heavy on the bottom of your pot as well. So, okay. Should I go ahead and portion her up? That's about it. Yeah, very good point.
In the whole pot?
No, I'll just, they can add it or not add it. And you'll also notice we have a little bottle of Tabasco sauce. If you can see it like that, it's a little bit, this will go a long way. So you can add this at the end. If it's too spicy for you, if you're not a Tabasco person, you sure don't have to put it in there, but we give you a little bit. It's kind of fun. You can take it with you to breakfast, and you can add that if you want. You don't have to add it, but it'll be in there if you want. It's pretty traditional. Everybody kind of likes a little spice in there. So we will include that with you too, okay? Okay, on that note, you should be basically ready to go. At your convenience. It'll thicken up pretty nicely. It's not going to be terribly thick, but it's not going to be like a vegetable soup. It's going to have some body to it. And if you longer you simmer that, it will tend to reduce a little bit. The steam will reduce, and it'll be more concentrated flavor there. Boy, that looks delicious. Yeah. And we're going to go ahead and, if I can land this without crashing, then I'm just going to put a little sprinkle of paprika kind of carelessly over it. It was kind of fun. It just looks kind of artistic like that. Also brought in some freeze-dried chives. I did have some chives in my garden, but I mowed them down about 2 weeks ago. Sorry about that. But I was cleaning out the tomato plants and everything and kind of got a little too close with the mower. But that's all right. You can go ahead and just put a little skosh of that on there. And it gives it a nice color, just gives it a nice accent. And it's delicious. So if you follow those instructions and everything, you should have a very nice lobster bisque in 20 minutes.
Yeah. You want to sign off?
Yep. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Eat well, laugh hard, and until we meet again. Thanks for coming. See you later.